Okay, hi Adele, and happy birthday from your dad and from Tom. We're out here in the garage, and we're thinking about the little project that you discussed with me about making a garden bed for in front of your house. So I put a little bit of thought into it, and I made a little model here. This is a model of the garden bed, and that nail in the middle represents that signpost that your bicycle is fastened to. Sorry, I don't have a 1 in 10 scale model of a bicycle to put in there. We'll just have to imagine that part. So these boards here, I've imagined those are 2x6s. So a 2x6 is this kind of timber here. So it's 5.5 inches this way and 1.5 inches this way. And I was thinking you could get two pieces, 8 foot long, and a third piece to make this part here. So that's 3 pieces of 2x6. Now I'd recommend using pressure treated lumber for this, because if you don't use pressure treated lumber, it tends to rot pretty fast. But if you're not worried about that, if you make it out of regular lumber, it'll still last for, like, I'd say 2 years or 3 years or something like that. Maybe that's long enough for you. It doesn't cost that much extra to get the pressure treated lumber though. So these two pieces here, when you buy them, they can be 8 feet long. So don't cut them. Well, the reason for that is it saves time and effort cutting them, and I think from the dimensions that you gave me that the 8 foot length would be about what you want. The reason for not cutting them is as soon as you cut them, you lose the pressure treating that's on the end of the board, and then that's a place for rot to start. Now, these two pieces here, these short pieces, you have to cut one end of those. So one end will still be pressure treated, one end won't be pressure treated. But if you just come in a little closer here, you see how that end there is exposed. So it's not getting all that wet, and it doesn't have soil on it, so it probably won't rot too fast. So that's why we try to leave that part that we cut out. The end of this piece here, that's on the 2x6 when it was in the factory. So that end already has pressure treatment in it, and it won't rot as a result. So we'll cut two pieces like that. That's the width of the space that the bicycle was parked on. I think you had indicated that was just under 1 meter. So if you have a 2x6 by 8 feet long, you'll be able to get two pieces easily from the 2x6. In addition, I was thinking you could make some little stakes like this. The stakes could pound into the ground to help keep this in place. And also, if you buy a piece of 1x4 or 1x6, 8 feet long, and put that in there, that's only 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's fastened to the bottom like so. Then you build this whole thing in situ, because once you've started building it, it starts to get kind of heavy, and also since that pole is in the way, it would be hard to get it over the pole. I don't know how tall that post is, but it's probably too tall to go over. So just build it right in place. So that's what it'll look like for these center pieces. Is this whole thing will have a tendency to sort of want to float up when you put the soil on, because the soil's heavy and the wood's light. So these mean that there's some soil on top of the wood, and that's helping to hold it down. And also the weight of the soil makes this one to bulge in the middle. So if you have these going across like this, it prevents it from bulging. It makes it a lot stronger. So there's two reasons for that. Those little pegs that I'm talking about, same reason for them, is to keep it from floating out in a way. Talk about are these pegs. And I was thinking the way you could make those is when you cut these, that's two pieces from 8 feet, and this is quite a bit less than, by the time you cut these two, you'll still have a little bit left over. So you have a little piece of wood left over like this, and I was thinking you could just get two boards like so, and put it on the ground like this. See how that board's being supported on either edge? Now this kind of wood is pretty easy to split, so if you just give a nice sharp blow with a hammer, it'll split into two pieces like so. And you could use those two pieces to make pegs. And you just take your handsaw, I think you have a handsaw, and you could use a handsaw to sharpen that up into a point. The next thing I'm going to talk about is how to cut the main 2x6. So I think you have a handsaw. I've got one right here. When I'm cutting something in my beautiful workshop here, I usually use something like this sawhorse. I don't think you have one of those, but you can just use anything that's about the right height, and you just put it on there like this. before you cut it, you use a thing called a square to mark a line for you to follow as you saw it. So you just use a pencil and a square, and I'm going to mark a line like this, and I'm going to put my foot on it so it doesn't move around. A line like this, and a line like this. That gives you the line that I can follow. I think maybe you don't have one of these, but you can use any square object like this, or you could use a book or something like that, just to make a square line. This is a handsaw. You hold it like this, put one finger pointing towards the blade. It helps you to cut straight. I learned that when I was in middle school. Put your foot up here like this so that you can hold it steady and it's at a good height, so you have two cuts like that for the project, so it shouldn't be too hard. The next thing we're going to do is fasten these on the corner, and the long piece butts up like this. That end is still pressure treated since you didn't cut it. That's the piece that you cut, so you put it on there like so. Now to fasten it together, you need a galvanized common nail, and it just so happens that I've got some here, so you'll probably have to buy some. Common nail looks like this. It has a nice head on it, and it's galvanized. It has a coating on it so that it doesn't want to rust. That's a 3-inch nail. 3-inch is the smallest nail that you want to use for this. 3.5 inches is the biggest size nail that you want to use for this. So the next thing we're going to do is fasten this together. I think you have a hammer already. I think you have an 18-ounce hammer. This is an 18-ounce hammer as well. For this job, it's a little bit better to use a 22-ounce hammer, but I'm thinking you probably don't have one, so I'm going to use the 18-ounce hammer. I'm going to go over here because it's sturdy, like this piece of the step here, and that'll give me something to nail against. So that's 1.5 inches thick, so I want to nail more or less in the middle of that 1.5 inches. So I'll go from there, and I'm not quite exactly in the middle. I'm over a little bit to the right. That's because this 2x6 will want to split as I put this nail in, so the farther this way the nail is, the better. So if I have this like so, then I could just hammer it together like so. And you'll notice this first nail that I put in, I'm putting it in straight and in the middle of this space here. That's because when you're first putting this together, this thing is all kind of wobbly and hard to get a hold of. So if I put it in the middle, when I'm hammering it, it won't tend to move around as much. I'm going to finish hammering that one in. Okay, I'm going to put 2 more nails in, one at the bottom and one at the top. Now the thing about putting a nail in like this is this thing wants to split. So if I go near this edge or near this end here, this tends to want to split. So to make it less likely to split, I'm going to put this more over this way and angle it in a little bit. And I'm also going to angle it down a little bit like this. And I'm going to keep a foot on it so it doesn't move around. And I just tapping it there to make sure that it's straight. Then I'll put one at the bottom, same way. And you can see once I fasten that on there, that's nice and strong and doesn't want to come apart. Nails that I did put in, see how the one in the middle is in the middle? These 2 here are near this edge here, and angled this way and angled this way. The reason nails are angled is if you try to pull this apart, if those nails are all running parallel, it'll come apart fairly easily. If those nails have a little angle to them like that, like one's going this way, one's going this way, and one's going this way, then it doesn't want to come apart as easily. And as you can see, it's a little hard to get this apart again, but with a little persuasion you can. In spite of that coming apart fairly easy with the hammer blows, if you fasten that in like I described, and especially after the nails have been in there for a little while, the wood starts to grip them better and they'll stay in for a good long time. So that's how you make those corners there. This part here, that's 1 by 4 or 1 by 6, so it's only 3/4 of an inch thick. So you don't want to use big huge nails like that for those. You want like a 2-inch nail or 2 1/4 inch nail. Again, common galvanized nail. These ones I think would be all right if they weren't pressure treated. They're underground and you know they will rot, but by the time they rot, this thing will have been here for a long time and the soil won't be mobile anymore. And if they rot, it doesn't matter. Now these things here, I already showed you how to split them into narrower shape. And where are those pieces? You see how this doesn't have much of a sharp point on it yet? So I can get my handsaw, put it on that bucket, and I'm just going to cut it in a sharp shape like that. A nicer way to do this, of course, is to use an axe or a hatchet or something, but I'm thinking maybe you don't have one. Now to drive these stakes in, the best thing to do is to use a mallet, like a sledgehammer or something. I'm thinking maybe you don't have one, so I have this rock instead. The only thing about using a rock is when you're tapping the rock, be really careful that you don't hit your hand like that. Let's just go see if this will tap into the ground. So when you get it in like that, you know, it's not extremely strong, but it's in there and it'll help to hold everything. Probably with a little persuasion, get it out though. But that'll do a lot. If you have that tap well in like that, that'll do a lot to help hold it in position. So you can put these in ahead of, like build the box first, then put the stakes in and fasten the stakes into the ground using the rock. And then once these are in place, use the saw sideways, cut them off so that they're well lower than the top of the wooden box, and then put a nail through these into the side of the wooden box. Let's just go back inside again. So here are the stakes in the model. You can see the stakes are cut off well short of the top of this wooden box, so that when you fill this up with dirt, you won't see the stakes, you won't see these boards here, you'll just see these boards on the perimeter. I was thinking a little bit about how much soil that you need, and I think you need 7 bags of soil. The bags hold 50 liters each, and I made a little list of the materials that you need. 3 2x6s, 1 1x4, box of 3 1/2 inch nails, and a box of 1 1/2 inch nails, plus the 7 bags of soil. I think 7 bags of soil more or less fill this if it's the dimensions that you described, and if I didn't make a mistake, figure it out. Okay, well, I'm going to send this video along to you. I'll send you a snapshot of the parts list here, and I'll also send you some money to pay for it all. And you can have a look at the whole project, and maybe you'll think, oh, way too complicated, too expensive, something like that. So if you want to use the money for something else, well, that's your privilege, and happy birthday. Or if you want to build this thing, that would be cool too. Sweetheart, I love you. I wish you still lived on Almond Street, but happy birthday. Bye.